Hello there, my name is Gustavo Colares. I am from University of Santa Cruz do Sul, Brazil, and I'm here to present you our study named Production of Charcoal by Pyrolysis Process for the Treatment of Liabilities of Industrial Landfills, Bibliometric and Life Cycle Analysis. It is known that the treatment of solid waste by the pyrolysis process can allow the creation of several scenarios with circular economy mechanisms. From the decomposition of cellulose, biochar or charcoal can be produced, considering temperature ranges from 240 to 350 degrees. In the pyrolysis process, for example, 1 ton of urban solid waste can generate more than 300 kilograms of coal, which can be further used in the combustion process for power generation. However, it is important to highlight that the generation of biochar alone does not result in significant positive impacts on the life cycle and thus in additional environmental benefits. Therefore, it becomes very important to efficiently evaluate the environmental benefits of the pyrolysis method. In this context, the present study aimed to investigate the passive treatment of Class 2A solid waste, according to the Brazilian regulation, from a landfill located in the south of Brazil, which receives and treats the waste from 13 cooperative companies, including sectors such as tobacco, food, electroplating, and others. In our study, life cycle assessment, or LCA, was applied for the pyrolysis method in a bench reactor in order to evaluate the pyrolysis application for landfill solid waste, considering the potential energy recovery as well as the landfill liabilities. These residues were mainly composed of plastic, paper, and cotton. Regarding sampling and sample preparation, the samples for the pyrolysis assays were collected in a deactivated Class 2A landfill cell in the south of Brazil. This unit had about 6.3 thousand cubic meters filled with solid waste from local companies of tobacco, food, metal, and plastic production sectors. From 10 points uniformly distributed in the surface cell, samples of 5 kilograms of residues were collected, considering all types of mixed materials, including plastics, paper, cardboard, tailings, foams, and synthetic rubbers, as well as cotton fabrics and cellulose. After the collected samples were mixed, aliquots of each type of material were then removed from the mixture in the following rates: 40% plastic, 25% cardboard and paper, 25% synthetic foam and rubber, and 10% cotton fabric and cellulose. Concerning the catalytic and non-catalytic pyrolysis, the assays were carried out with a maximum temperature of 350 degrees, with heating rates of 2.75 degrees per minute, using then 2 hours as the necessary time to reach 350 degrees. Then, they were kept for 30 minutes at this temperature, therefore totaling 150 minutes. For last, cooling down was made to room temperature. In this slide, Table 1 presents the inventory for the development of the studied methods, the pyrolysis and the catalytic pyrolysis. The considered parameters were mass of waste, nitrogen purge, energy consumption, catalyst, pyrolysis time, and the amount of generated coal. The CIMA-Pro software version 8.0.4 was used, and the Impact 2002 Plus method was applied, mainly exploring the database with reference to the S systems, taking into account the study process. The bibliometric analysis was conducted using the Web of Science database. The search terms used in this platform were life cycle assessment, pyrolysis, and biochar. From the information obtained from the database, a bibliometric mapping was carried out using the VozViewer software. in this case version 1.6.12, and according to the methodology described by De Souza et al. In Figure 1, we can see the network visualization map generated by the VosWeir software from the studies published in the Web of Science database. In this map, the colors represent clusters of the extracted terms grouped by the software according to each of the items' relationships. In this figure, some of the extracted terms that are important to highlight are the energy recovery, climate change, agriculture, fertilizer, heavy metal, as well as economic analysis. In Figure 2a, we can see the impacts normalization for the environmental liability regarding the studied pyrolysis methods, test scenario, and functional unity of 10 grams of Class 2A solid waste. The blue color represents the Class 2A landfill waste liability, while the red color indicates the pyrolysis process and the green bars the catalytic pyrolysis. The most important impact categories indicated in this analysis were the respiratory inorganics, global warming, and the use of non-renewable energy. In this slide, we can see Figure 2b, which presents the normalization for the environmental liability regarding the studied pyrolysis methods. Scenario of a pyrolysis plant with energy use, and functional unity of 10 grams of Class 2A waste. From this graphic, it was possible to verify that the most important impacts are related to non-renewable energy, global warming, land occupation, respiratory inorganics, and carcinogens. Figure 3a, on the other hand, presents the characterization for the environmental liability considering the studied pyrolysis methods, test scenario, and functional unity of 10 grams of Class 2A solid waste. In this figure, one can note that most of the impacts are related to the pyrolysis and to the catalytic pyrolysis process, in this graph indicated by the red and the green colors respectively. The Class 2A landfill waste liabilities, presented in the blue color, shows up more in the impacts categories concerning carcinogens, respiratory inorganics, and land occupation. In Figure 3b, it is presented the characterization for the environmental liability for the studied pyrolysis methods, scenario of pyrolysis plant with energy use, and functional unity of 10 grams of Class 2A solid waste. In this graph, we can see that differently from the previous analysis, in which no energy recovery was considered, the Class 2 landfill waste liabilities are now responsible for most of the impacts. In addition, it is interesting to highlight the positive impacts regarding mainly the layer depletion, aquatic ecotoxicity, and mineral extraction. Figure 4a presents the weighting for the environmental liability for the studied pyrolysis methods, test scenario, and functional unity of 10 grams of Class 2A solid waste. It is very clear that in this figure that in the scenario considering no energy recovery after the pyrolysis, most of the impacts are related to the pyrolysis and to the catalytic pyrolysis process, presented in this graph in the red and in the green colors, respectively. As you can see, Figure 4b, on the other hand, indicates that when energy recovery is considered for the pyrolysis process, the Class 2A landfill solid waste liabilities become responsible for most of the generated impacts, in this graph presented by the blue color. Therefore, as demonstrated with the life cycle assessment, the pyrolysis process will only be efficiently sustainable with the effective control of energy balance and the formulation and development of biochar products that can help to improve the quality of ecosystems and indirectly can also increase the quality of human health. It was also concluded that the heterogeneity and impregnation in the residues were not efficient, since a yield below 5% was verified for the production of pyrolyzed coal. The clay has no impact on the analysis made by the life cycle assessment, and the pyrolysis reactor must also be improved, as the lack of pyrolysis uniformities was observed when the coal was removed. One alternative in this context to remove the performance of the prototype for bench assays might be the insertion of a centralized bolt. Thank you very much for your attention, and here's my email contact.